In this video, we're going to talk about the Address Resolution Protocol, better known as ARP. So what's the purpose of ARP? Well, it resolves IP addresses to MAC addresses. And remember, when we are talking about a computer, it has two addresses. It has its logical address assigned by the network, and that's its IP address. For example, 192.168.1.1. And then a MAC address, which is the actual physical address that's burned into the network interface card. So remember, we talked about switches, and switches build a table where they are identifying what port has what MAC address. Well, computers do a similar thing. They have a table within their system where they are aligning the different IP addresses that they know, and they're associating MAC addresses with them. And so, for example, if a computer knows an IP address of a computer that it wants to communicate on the local area network, but it doesn't know the MAC address, it can send out an ARP request. Or if it knows the MAC address and it doesn't know the IP address, it can send out a reverse ARP request. And so the whole point of this is to use this protocol to identify the MAC address or the IP address of a system where it doesn't know one or the other and only knows one. And so without this protocol, we really can't communicate across the network, because the first thing you do when you plug a computer in and put it onto a network is that it doesn't know anybody's IP addresses. It doesn't know anybody's MAC addresses, but over time it's going to learn them, and it has to use the ARP request protocol to do so. So let's go ahead and see what it looks like. And so, for example, if I wanted to look at my ARP table, I could go to my command line prompt and type in ARP space -A, and it's going to show me here's the IP addresses and here's the associated MAC addresses. And let me pause the video for 1 second, and I'll pull up my command line and I'll do this actual request. So I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so I went ahead and I pulled up my command prompt, and I had to run this as administrator. So if you are on a Windows machine, a Windows 7 or greater, you have to right click and tell it to run as administrator. Otherwise, this command won't work. Now, the command itself is very simple. So it's ARP space -A and enter. And now it's going to show me the ARP table in my physical computer, and it's going to show me the IP addresses here and the associated MAC addresses. Now, for example, if it knew this IP address here, but it didn't know the associated MAC address, it would send out an ARP request on the network, and I'll show exactly how this works from a high-level point of view on the next slide. But it'll send out a request, and it'll say, hey, who is the MAC address of 192.168.0.100 on this network? And the computer that has that IP address is going to say, okay, that's my IP address. Let me tell you what my MAC address is. And we can do a reverse ARP request if we know the MAC address and we don't know the IP address. We can say, what's the IP address of this MAC address here? And the computer on the network will go ahead and respond. So that's that. Let me go ahead and pull up the next slide, and let's talk about how this process works from a very high-level perspective. Now, this is not all the nitty-gritty details that actually happens on a network, but this just gives you, as somebody that's being introduced to networks, a high-level overview of how this works. So, for example, we have two computers on our network, and we have this guy, it's 192.168.1.110, and then we have 192.168.1.115. And so this guy over here wants to communicate with him, but he doesn't know his MAC address. So he sends out an ARP request saying, I need the MAC address of this IP address, this 192.168.1.115. It goes out and it goes across the network, and it does what we call is an ARP broadcast. So it goes to the switch and it tells the switch, I need to do an ARP broadcast. Send this request out on all the ports where there's a cable connected, and the switch will say, okay, I'm going to send this out on all the cables that are connected. And then it's going to go to every single computer, and they're going to get that ARP request. They're going to look at that IP address and see if it matches theirs, and if it does, they'll respond. And this guy says, oh, okay, well, I'm this guy. I am 192.168.115. Here's my MAC address. And so he'll go ahead and he'll respond to his MAC address request to this computer, and now this computer is going to have the associated MAC address. And that's how this works in a nutshell from a high-level perspective. So that's our introduction to ARP. If you have any further questions about it, please let me know. If not, thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next video.